Xi's trust in PLA collapses when Li Shangfu dismissed. After Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu was officially dismissed, his successor has become the latest hot topic in Beijing's political circles. In this regard, analysts believe that two people in the Central Military Commission are most likely to succeed him, namely Liu Zhenli, Chief of Staff of the Joint Staff Department of the Central Military Commission, and He Weidong, Vice Chairman of the Central Military Commission. According to analysts, once the new defense minister is chosen, the outside world may get a glimpse of the trusting relationship between the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Xi Jinping, and the People's Liberation Army. The Standing Committee of the Chinese National People's Congress announced personnel changes on October 24th, officially removing Li Shangfu from the positions of State Councilor and Defense Minister, leaving only a party member of the Central Military Commission of the Communist Party of China, setting the record for China's shortest-lived defense minister with a term of only 7 months. Li Shangfu has been in hiding for nearly 2 months since attending the China-Africa Peace and Security Forum in Beijing on August 29th. Therefore, the news of his dismissal from office is not surprising to the public. However, Chinese officials have never explained the reason for Li Shangfu's dismissal, causing international public opinion to speculate that he may have been fired due to corruption issues during his previous tenure at the Ministry of Equipment Development. The current important matter is, who will take over his vacancy? Liu Zhenli. Reuters quoted an insider as saying on October 12th that Liu Zhenli, the Chief of Staff of the Joint Staff Department of the Central Military Commission, CMC, who is ranked second only to Li Shangfu on the CMC's list, is the most likely candidate. According to the CPC's political practice, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, NPC, usually meets once every 2 months, so the earliest possible date for discussing the new defense chief would be December. Li Shangfu was dismissed. Xi Jinping's trust in the People's Liberation Army collapsed. Lin Yingyu, an assistant professor at Graduate Institute of International Affairs and Strategic Studies, Tamkang University in New Taipei City, Taiwan, said that the main responsibility of the Chinese defense minister is military diplomacy and is not responsible for the actual command and training of the People's Liberation Army. Therefore, strictly speaking, the choice of the defense minister will not affect the normal operation of the People's Liberation Army, but who Xi Jinping appoints to take over may show his control of military power and the direction of running the military as the commander-in-chief. Lin Yingyu analyzed that Liu Zhenli is one of the few active duty generals in the People's Liberation Army with actual combat experience. He and Zhang Yuxia, vice chairman of the Central Military Commission of the Communist Party of China, both participated in the Sino-Vietnam War in 1979 and are regarded as a Vietnam War gang in a broad sense. If Liu Zhenli is confirmed as the Minister of Defense, his rich connections in the military and relatively solid military combat background may highlight Xi Jinping's intention to strengthen the functions of the Minister of Defense. Lin Yingyu told Voice of America, "Perhaps he, Liu Zhenli, will be the minister who knows best about operations, because he has served as the Joint Staff, Chief of Staff, which will allow the defense minister to have more real power in external communication. When he goes to communicate with foreign troops, there will be more to talk about." He Weidong. Another possible candidate is He Weidong, the current vice chairman of the Central Military Commission. Some analysts believe that Xi may follow the pattern of Wang Yi, director of the Foreign Affairs Office of the CPC Central Committee, and make He Weidong concurrently serve as defense minister. After the resignation of former Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang, Wang Yi, who had been promoted to director of the Foreign Affairs Office of the CPC Central Committee, returned to take over the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the end of July this year. Lin Yingyu analyzed that if He Weidong is also in charge of the Ministry of National Defense, his actual power will be more highlighted. And it can also eliminate the common doubts from various countries about the insufficient weight of the person holding this position when the Chinese defense minister communicates with foreign countries in the past. According to Su Ziyun, director of the National Defense Strategy and Resources Institute of the National Defense Security Research Institute in Taipei, He Weidong was born in Fujian and served as the commander of the Eastern Theater Command. He has long been regarded as a member of Xi Jinping's trusted Minjiangnu Army, and he may take over the Ministry of National Defense. This not only symbolizes Xi's reorganization of the military command system of the People's Liberation Army, but also represents Xi's intention to improve his control over the situation in the Taiwan Strait. Su Ziyun told Voice of America, "If He Weidong is appointed, it will continue to be Xi Jinping's small circle, And because He Weidong was in the Eastern Theater before, I think He Weidong will deliberately create some tensions here in the Taiwan Strait. On the one hand, to maintain the legitimacy of the Xi regime will eventually lead to regional confrontation. Concerns over frequent purges at the top levels of the PLA. Compared with the selection of the new defense minister, analysts pointed out that the recent frequent purges at the top of the PLA, especially the rocket force generals, may severely damage the leadership authority of the PLA. This has raised many concerns from analysts. Su Ziyun pointed out that from the resignation of former China Shipbuilding Industry Corporation chairman Hu Wenming and former general manager Sun Bo, who were responsible for the construction of the Shandong aircraft carrier, to the recent corruption investigations involving many top rockets officers, to the dismissal of Li Shangfu, who came from the General Armament Department, has repeatedly highlighted the seriousness of the corruption problem in the People's Liberation Army. He said that similar corruption cases cannot be carried out by equipment and logistics units alone, but can only be achieved by colluding with combat officers in the military order system and asking them to let go during acceptance inspections. In other words, this is structural corruption. Lin Yingyu of the Institute of Strategic Strategy believes that the most critical issue is that this round of changes in the PLA's senior generals cannot reveal their professional patterns at all. For example, the new generals of the rocket force are from the Navy. Besides, the dilemma of dispatching troops and generals by lay leaders and experts has caused the outside world to question the true combat effectiveness of the People's Liberation Army. Joel Wuthnow, a senior researcher at the China Military Affairs Research Center at the Institute for National Strategic Studies at the National Defense University in Washington, also believes that the purge in the military means that the top leadership of the Communist Party of China has far less confidence in military commanders of all services than in the past. Distrust can have serious consequences. Su Ziyun told Voice of America, "This is not only about personnel, but also equipment and weapons." According to Su, if these people go to the battlefield in the future, the Chinese government may not be able to rely on the military equipment purchased by this group of generals over the past 10 years. Su thinks the biggest impact will be the loss of confidence and trust in the officers, soldiers, generals, and systems. Su further pointed out that due to the obvious large-scale corruption in the military, Xi's trust in the People's Liberation Army collapsed, which will inevitably lead to more investigations in the aftermath. He believes that it is difficult for the Chinese People's Liberation Army to truly have the ability to invade Taiwan by force before 2027, as assessed by U.S. intelligence agencies.
China's bailout failed again? Chinese stocks gave back gains as initial excitement over new government stimulus faded, with traders seeing no relief for the ailing property sector. On October 25th, the CSI 300 index closed up 0.5%, cutting more than half of its previous gains. The Hang Seng China Enterprises Index gave up all its gains after rising more than 3%, failing to halt 4 consecutive days of losses. The government's latest moves to boost economic growth, including a rare increase in the budget deficit ratio and an unprecedented visit by the president to the central bank, sent stocks jumping at the open. However, the rally's loss of momentum throughout the day suggested skepticism still lingers. Developer Country Garden Holdings Liyue is believed to have defaulted on a U.S. dollar bond for the first time in its history, the latest setback for the ailing real estate sector. China's legislature approved a plan to raise the fiscal deficit to about 3.8% of gross domestic product in 2023 from the 3% set in March, including issuing 1 trillion yuan worth of debt in the fourth quarter, 137 billion of additional sovereign bonds to support disaster relief and construction. Wheeler Chen, senior research analyst at Forsyth Barr Asia Ltd, said that given that the market is currently at extremely depressed levels, the latest support measures may lead to some short covering and trigger a rebound. But the key question is how long this will last, as the support for a recovery in consumption will be relatively small. Foreign investors later became net sellers again after buying mainland Chinese shares in early trade. They dumped 178 million or 1.3 billion yuan worth of stocks, marking the 8th consecutive trading day of net selling, the longest such streak since August last year. The CSI 300 index wiped out all its gains during the massive reopening that began late last year, as concerns about the health of the property sector prompted unprecedented outflows of foreign capital from onshore markets. The Shanghai Composite Index is also about to fall below, a key 18-year trend line that provided support during the darkest moments of the China-US trade war and the epidemic. The trend line this time around is expected to be around 2,900. In the face of the deepening real estate crisis, previous measures to rescue the stock market have failed. Sovereign wealth funds bought ETFs on October 23rd, expanding their purchases beyond bank stocks. The move comes after Chinese officials slowed the pace of initial public offerings, IPOs, in recent months, limited the sale of holdings by some major shareholders, cut stamp taxes on stock transactions, and relaxed rules on margin trading. The latest economic data shows that while China's economy is on track to meet Beijing's 5% growth target for this year, the real estate sector remains a drag. Liyue Cern, managing director of Union Bancaire Private, said, "If the latest move shows a greater willingness to broaden the fiscal balance and reduce local government spending, then it should become more positive over time." But he added that this rebound will not last if the stimulus package ends with the steps announced recently.
Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from Understand China, and thank you for tuning in.